Hello, everyone, and welcome to our May Cazena Lounge. My name is Hannah Smalltree. I will be one of your hostesses today, along with Sally Cooper. Hi, Sally.
Hey, Hannah. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here too. And I'm excited about today's broadcast. We're talking about data science and the cloud today. And we have a really exciting special guest who we'll introduce in a moment. So we're going to start by talking with Daniel Parton, lead data scientist from Bardess, which is a Cazena partner. He is the primary author of the Bardess Data Science Maturity Curve. We just did a big blog series and interviewed Daniel a lot, and he's been kind enough to come on and provide some highlights here. So we'll talk with Daniel. The other thing we're going to do is we've asked him if he'll take some of your questions. So during this conversation or whenever you think of it, you can put your question down there in the chat, and Sally and I will make sure that we ask Daniel. So we will watch for your questions. Again, put them right down there in the chat in your GoToWebinar control panel. And then finally, we will learn about some more resources that Cazena is offering for data science and the cloud. And we may or may not have a special guest join us. So, intrigued. So stay on the line and we'll get started. We're gonna start by going over to Daniel. Daniel, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Hey, Daniel Parton. I love talking with Daniel. We've gotten to do some interviews over the last couple years, and aside from talking about a shared interest in music, I always like to talk with you, Daniel, about your experience with data science. You've worked with a lot of different kinds of companies and on different projects. Could you share a little bit about your background and sort of what's led you on your data scientist journey?
Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. So I initially studied science. So I did chemistry and then computational biophysics for my PhD. That was back in the UK, and then I moved to the US to do some research. So I was doing postdoctoral research at U Chicago, then at Sloan Kettering in New York. So the research I was doing was what I called molecular dynamics simulations. We'd sort of make these 3D models of proteins and see how they move around. Sort of on a computer, basically, to understand how they work and so on. So it was quite a long way from the type of stuff I do nowadays in terms of the actual application of the sort of domain of application, right? But the some of the technology, that's sort of where I started learning Python. Right, this is a long time ago now, but I've been using Python for a long time. So that kind of helped me pick up some of those skills. And then after a while, I decided academia wasn't sort of where I wanted to stay, so I jumped into industry and never looked back. It's been great. So I went to work for a big marketing firm called Omnicom for a couple of years. Sort of helped to build out the data science team there. So we were working on lots of big clients, sort of big name sort of marketing brands like Coca-Cola and American Airlines and so on. And then I joined Bardess about 4 years ago to build out the data science practice here. So, like you said, we work on we work in pretty much every sort of industry vertical. So, we have finance customers, we have CPG and retail customers. We've done sports and entertainment. We did a pretty cool project for the NHL, which was a fun one. Even though I'm not so familiar with all the American sports, but it was still a fun one. Yeah.
Did you say NHL?
NHL, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a Canadian sport, but we're pretty good at it in the US.
I see, North American.
That is really cool. So it's a lot of different kind of consumer brands, but I bet they're all doing kind of slightly different things, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, finance, for example, they have some pretty specialized use cases. So we have a client which is using the Cazena platform that is doing. We built a credit risk model for, right? So basically, because Cazena was used to set up like a new data architecture for this firm. This particular firm so they're like they're a vehicle leasing firm, right? And I was kind of amazed when I first started speaking to them that they did all of their credit risk analysis manually. Right, so you have this team of credit analysts who know this stuff really, really well. But lease applications come in and they'll do various research. They'll pull the credit scores, go on Google Maps, see if the address checks out, see if the type of building makes sense compared to what the type of company the person going for the lease said they were working at. But so that just wasn't scalable. So to kind of allow them to scale up and gain more business, handle more lease applications, there was a need to build a credit risk model to do some of that credit risk analysis automatically. So basically, Cazena provided sort of the back-end data architecture, and then sort of Bardess provided the data science side to build that credit risk model and get that into production. But so that's one example of a very specialized finance use case. We have like retail customers where we're for example, trying to predict sales opportunities. We have one customer which is a big food manufacturer, and we're helping them understand sales opportunities in the sense of they sell, let's say, 10,000 different product SKUs, and they have like, say, 200,000 stores that they sell to across the US. So which products are they not currently selling at a certain store, which is predicted to have high revenue, right? So we're making those predictions and enabling them to sort of expand the business by seeing where there could be opportunities, right? So yeah, there's a lot of variation, but also quite a lot of similarity. In some cases, like time series forecasting, for example, is a big thing. Really most companies have some kind of time series data and have some kind of need for time series forecasting. So yeah, there's variation, but also some similarities.
Nice. And it was all of this experience that went into this new tool that you've created with your team at Bardess, the Bardess Data Science Maturity Curve. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm going to put it up on the screen here. So we recently talked a lot about this. So I invite everybody to go online to cazena.com/blog. That's the fastest way to get to our series on the Bardess Data Science Maturity Curve. I know there's a lot of words on the screen. I'm not going to go in depth to all of the phases now because I would like you to go read that blog series and see some of the video there. But just sort of at a high level, Daniel, what is this curve doing? How would a data scientist use this, or a data science team, or a leader of a data science team? What's your intention with this curve?
Yeah, so from a sort of Bardess consulting point of view, we really developed this as a way to understand where our customers are at currently with data science and how we can help them, right? How we can sort of tailor our solutions towards what they need. So we basically sort of show this slide to potential customers, and we go through it, and usually we don't have to prompt the customer. They'll often just, once they see this, they'll be like, okay, yeah, we think we're maybe at stage 1 or stage 2 or maybe stage 3, and that will give us an idea of where they are, both in terms of the sort of the management side of things of data science and the technology stack, so the back-end architecture, their expertise in terms of how many data scientists they have. So it really helps us to understand, because there's so many companies out there that want to do data science, but a lot of them don't really have a good idea of exactly what data science is or what they could be doing with it. So this helps us to kind of understand where they're currently at and understand sort of what their aspirations are. Like, do they want to get to stage 4 maturity or stage 5 or whatever, and in what time scale, and that helps us understand sort of what we can do to get them there.
Really well summarized. So when we looked at this together, I know one thing, and actually one of the sections I was just recently editing, we talk about technology, I mean, really all throughout the curve, but you've used Cazena, and I'm curious sort of where does the Cazena platform fit in? Where does it help? Does it help the sad down curve here? Or sort of how do you see the Cazena platform fitting into the technology landscape that data scientists are likely to encounter?
Yeah. So, without going into all the detail on the screen, but if you read through the blog post, then you'll see that something that crops up a lot is sort of IT and back-end data architecture, right? So you can see like the emerging stage there, it says data scientists handle IT themselves. So a lot of companies, when they're starting out, they'll get maybe some existing analysts or maybe hire a data scientist or two, and they'll start to get their feet wet. But they will sooner rather than later come across problems of scale, right? So if they're dealing with large data sets, they need to have the data architecture to handle that, right? So and then there's also the side of sort of all the admin required. Data science sort of usually requires a lot of specialized tooling, right? It's simple enough to download Python, but you have to get all the other libraries. If you want to put things into production, then you need to think about how you roll that out, testing and continuous integration and all these other things. So Cazena is really sort of a really great solution for this sort of customer, and I'm sort of speaking from experience of sort of joint customers that Cazena and Bardess have, where a customer wants to be doing data science, but they don't really have the infrastructure in place. They know that if they wanted to roll their own solution, they're going to have to hire a team to do that, to set up that data architecture and maintain it and so on, and that's probably going to take months and be very expensive. So Cazena is like the perfect solution to that sort of thing, because as a sort of managed hosted solution, it's incredibly quick. Like within a day or so, it's sort of flip a switch and you suddenly have all the data architecture you need to support data science use cases.
And we should say, for people who are new to Cazena, we offer an instant cloud data lake for analytics and machine learning. So Cazena's really evolved past sort of storage and some of the data management to make sure that we offer pipeline capabilities so that people can connect their tools, all of the different tools we use for data science. So that kind of leads, how have you used the Cazena platform, or can you give any sort of concrete examples, Daniel, of where maybe a specific use case where Cazena's platform has helped and really helped somebody mature along the curve?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So I guess that credit risk example is a great example. So that company, they had for a long time been using basically a Microsoft SQL Server, so a traditional relational database, which supports all of their day-to-day activities, right? So they have, I guess, locations across the US where customers will go in and apply for a lease on a type of vehicle. And when they do that, the sales representative in that location will input the application details, and those go off to that relational database. So that database is really supporting like all the everyday activities. So and that works fine. The problem is when you want to do heavier analytics, such as data science. If you need to do a lot of data aggregation or a lot of complex sort of joins in SQL, it slows down the database, and basically the whole company grinds to a halt. So pretty much literally. So I early on in the process, when I did have to run some of those SQL jobs, I'd run what I thought was a short SQL job, and I'm getting emails saying like, hey, like the whole database has slowed down, and they're getting calls from all their locations across the US saying that the database system is too slow. So what's the big advantage of Cazena here? The way this was set up was that we set up this Cazena Instant Data Lake, which acts as a centralized analytics data warehouse. So what this means is that we replicate data from the SQL instance into the Cazena platform at regular intervals. So we have a kind of full view of all of the data, but we can analyze it in that Cazena platform without touching the underlying SQL database. So we're not affecting day-to-day activities. So that's the first thing, is just having a system which is not, which is separated from the transactional database used for the day-to-day stuff. But the other thing is, like, for doing analytics, you want a specialized analytics data warehouse, right? So the Cazena platform has a lot of great sort of tools for doing heavy compute, heavy analytics on these sorts of things. So that was kind of some of the background there, but the other ways in which Cazena can help, like with workflow scheduling, for example, right? Because it's one thing to set up an analytics data warehouse. It's another thing to make sure that the processes that you're running, like the analytics workflows, everything you're writing, often you want to sort of operationalize that and schedule it to run. So having like a workflow schedule is very, very helpful for that. And if you have one process which I don't know, does some cleanup on some data, and then another process which takes that cleaned data and gets it into a format necessary for the credit risk model, you have sort of two workflows, but you have to wait for the first one to finish, right? So a workflow scheduler can help with that sort of thing. So Cazena is great because it has all these different types of tools, and there are lots of other types of tools that are very helpful for these like data engineering and machine learning, data science projects that Cazena provides, and are very easy to just kind of switch on and provide within that platform.
That's a great answer. And I'd like to ask a little bit more. Actually, I have one question coming in. I think I know what they're getting at here. But the question is really, don't most data scientists want to build and manage their own environment? Like, and this person's like, pretty much you can do a lot of this with code. You know, I love these kind of questions. This person is skeptical that you would need some kind of a platform to do this. So how would you answer that? Don't most data scientists want to build their own environment?
Yeah, it's definitely a very common thing. I've definitely spoken to a lot of customers where maybe the data scientists have been doing their thing for a while, like a few years, and they've kind of rolled their own solution in a way. So they might have written code to, for example, bring up like a container so that they can use that as a sort of an isolated testing environment where they have all their Python environment set up and so on. But they're writing all the code to administer that themselves. So you know, when I'm presenting something like Cazena to data scientists who are doing that sort of thing, sometimes there's like an initial sort of well, we're not sure we want to use that. Like we've written all this code to do this, and we're happy doing it that way. So then I just try to explain sort of what are the pitfalls of doing it that way, right? So it's difficult to maintain a code base that you've written, and if you're doing that, you're effectively sort of becoming a sort of it's really sort of an IT role or a data engineering or data admin role, and that's not where data scientists can be most valuable, right? They have these skills in statistics and machine learning and so on, and it's not effective use of their time to be spending their time writing scripts to keep stuff up and running. So you know the value sort of proposition is that Cazena can handle all of that. But I guess a term that I use quite often is data ops or ML ops, and I think that's like an increasingly important term, right? Because data science, when I started, I guess a few years back, it was kind of the new kid on the block. But it's been around for a while now, so a lot of companies have maybe tried data science projects, but it's very difficult to get over that initial kind of overhead of converting, let's say, some sort of one-off analyses into productionized workflows, and having the data architecture in place is very important. So just kind of making that value prop clear and making it clear to data scientists that even if that's sort of how things were done, there's a better way of doing it, and you know most of them like the idea of having more time to actually focus on modeling and machine learning and so on, right? If you put it in those terms.
Right. And I think too, sort of getting hands-on with Cazena helps people understand the role that we fill. And that's kind of related to this other question here, which is, can you do everything with Cazena, or do you need other tools? And it's sort of like I'd love to show you the platform sometime because Cazena includes other tools within it. How would you answer that question as somebody who's been hands-on with Cazena?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, you know, the Cazena platform is evolving as well, right? So there's always sort of new tools becoming available within Cazena. My experience with projects has been Cazena sort of has been great for sort of the data architecture backend. I think on the sort of visualization front, we often work with some BI tools, right? Which I think for some of those projects we sort of maybe the client already had a BI tool, and actually for probably every project we've worked on, and probably every future project, the customer is going to have some tool that they want to integrate with Cazena, right? Something which they already have either running on-prem or in the cloud or something. So it's vital for Cazena to be able to integrate with other things. It's not like you just have the Cazena platform and you stop using everything else. So it's very important to have the integration layer, and Cazena has always been very good about sort of you know, having those integrations available and also providing expertise to make sure that they're working.
Cool. And another thing, and this is my question. So another thing you and I have talked about a bit is collaboration. So I know that Cazena's been really popular with companies that have like globally distributed teams or data science teams in a few different countries. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges of, when do people collaborate? When is it a one-person show? Or like, how does Cazena help people collaborate?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like at my last job at this marketing firm I was working at, when I joined, I think there were about 4 people on the team, and we grew it to about 12 people. That was all in New York City, but then we hired like tens of people globally as well. So it increasingly became a problem to sort of to handle that collaboration, right? I mean, people were happy to collaborate with each other, but the technology becomes a limitation. So obviously source code control is one thing, putting your code into GitHub, but data is much harder to control in that way. So putting your code in Git is fine, but Git is not really suited to storing large files. There are kind of workarounds for doing that, but this is why it's very helpful to have a data architecture that I guess allows sort of people across the world to easily have access to things. You want to set up the permissions properly. And there are also some specific tools within the Cazena stack. So for example, there's Amazon SageMaker, which is sort of Amazon's flagship data science product. It's basically, it doesn't try to automate machine learning, although it actually does have some automated machine learning libraries in it. But for the most part, if you're working in SageMaker, you're writing code, let's say in Python, but it provides a lot of collaboration tools that you can easily sort of share your code with other people, check it into version control. Other things, I guess, like making sure that you're using the same libraries, like the same Python libraries. It's a common problem if one data scientist did some work, like let's say a couple of years ago, and they did a bunch of work on a certain project, so now we want to go back and sort of reuse that code for a different project. So maybe that data scientist has left in the meantime, or for whatever reason, just the libraries have changed, and we have to sort of go back and figure out how to get it working again. So, because sometimes the easiest thing to do is just use like an earlier version of a library. So knowing exactly what that library is, keeping track of that sort of thing is very helpful. So those sorts of like, and this again I would put into sort of the ML ops field, right? It's sort of everything around machine learning and statistics that helps the data scientist to do their job. But ideally, you don't want to have the actual data scientist doing that, right? You want to have a platform that does it for you.
Agreed. So
Anna, sorry to interrupt. We see a couple of questions coming in through the chat. I don't know if maybe Daniel has a couple minutes to answer. The first question is, how does the Bardess maturity curve allow scientists to iterate on potential solutions for agility and new predictions? And actually, the next question is from the same person. It says, where on the curve does this apply? So Daniel, do you want me to say that again?
I think I got it. It's agility for new solutions.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess sort of the whole thing is really is working towards that in a way. I guess, I mean, if I take a question to mean sort of new solutions in the sense of like greenfield projects where maybe a company doesn't have data science projects ongoing already, then that's obviously the left-hand side of the curve, right? So that's where and we have a lot of customers like this who sort of want to do data science. They've heard about it. They know it's sort of a big thing. They feel like they should be doing it, but they're not quite sure how. So the stuff we talk about there's the data architecture piece, so making it clear that, because I guess the common pitfall that companies make, and this is the risk of stagnation part, the sort of the sad down curve in the middle of the curve there. That problem is it can be due to various factors. It can be due to not having the right data architecture in place. It can just be due to sort of like change management, because data science obviously comes with a lot of new jargon and a lot of new technology to understand. So that can definitely cause problems in terms of communication. Like data scientists like myself, who came from academia, came from like sort of the hard sciences, and can talk about machine learning and statistics, but don't necessarily know the business domain so well, and may not even be used to kind of the business environment. I definitely had to kind of learn a bit about how enterprise works when I first sort of stepped out of academia and into industry. So sort of same for that communication between the data science group and the business side can be it can be a challenge. So ideally you want to have at least one or a few people that can speak both languages, or but those people are difficult to find and hire. So the other approach is just to make sure the management are kind of learning the new jargon and sort of finding ways to find sort of good lines of communication with those teams. So yeah, and I guess integration with other tools is an important thing as well, right? Because it's one thing to set up a data warehouse, it's another thing to make sure that you can easily get data flowing from that into a BI tool, for example, or flowing into any sort of data science software that the company might be using. So yeah, those sort of same themes basically come in across the whole maturity curve, right? So if you're a new company getting into data science for the first time, then these are things you need to be thinking about. And maybe you're not going to be, making some huge sort of data architecture platform in the first year, but it's something to keep in mind, because maybe once you've got to that emerging stage, you want to get to the functional stage, and then the next stage after that. So it really helps. We feel like it helps customers to kind of see that vision and roadmap for how they can move into data science sort of over the years.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you so much. I think you really hit the point on integration, exactly, the ease of bringing in new sources. So thanks.
Sure.
Sally, do you have any other questions over there?
Let me take a look here in the chat. I think there was one more. Oh, this is a Cazena related, and you might have already hit on this, Hannah, but just can you do everything with Cazena, or do you need another tool? That's a question.
So for data science, I guess you can certainly do everything with Cazena. So I mentioned Amazon SageMaker, for example. It's a sort of data science, is a tool for writing Python code and doing machine learning. So you can certainly do all of that within Cazena. I think on the BI front, we're often kind of using other tools, partly just because customers tend to already have a BI solution that they use. BI is the choice of BI tools is often very important at a company. Sometimes there are multiple BI tools. Different teams will use different ones. So yeah, I think and I think Cazena is not sort of trying to be the sort of be all product that does sort of everything for your company. That's kind of like I think a sort of common pitfall that some sort of tech companies fall into, that they try to position themselves as a platform that does everything. Right, but no, and that's actually the Bardess sort of philosophy, is to bring the right tool to the job. There's no one tool that will just sort of do everything for you. So knowing what's out there on the market, and knowing sort of what can play well, and that's where the integration piece is key, right? Every company is stuck with lots of different pieces of software and hardware, and making those flow together nicely is very important. And that's really a big part of the value that I think Cazena provides.
Awesome. That is a great answer. I think we're going to wrap up. I want to highlight a few resources. So we've mentioned a couple times, Daniel and I did a long interview series, which has resulted in a series of blog posts and videos talking more about each stage of the Bardess maturity curve for data science. We also have some videos as part of that, where we've offered a little bit more color on that series. And then on the website, we have a few new offers, such as our CDAO, or Chief Data and Analytics Officer Jumpstart program, where we work with partners like Bardess to get a use case launched for your company within 4 weeks or less. So there's some really cool new resources that are on the Cazena website. You can also sign up for our emails so that you never miss an announcement from Cazena again. And Sally sends those out to you regularly, so you stay up to date. Sally, any other resources that you'd like to mention available on Cazena now?
Yeah, actually, I just want to remind everyone that we also post these videos to our YouTube channel, the Cazena YouTube channel. So take a look at that, subscribe, follow us there. There's some great resources for you there.
Great answer. And finally, our friend Daniel Parton from Bardess, lead data scientist. Daniel, thank you so much for talking with us, for answering our questions over and over, and for being so straightforward and direct in your discussions with us. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for joining us at another Cazena Lounge. We will see you next month. We encourage you to get in touch anytime if you have questions, if you have ideas, other things you'd like to see in the lounge here, just let us know. So Sally signing off, and I'm Hannah Smalltree from Cazena signing off, and we'll see you on the next Cazena Lounge.